Chapter 9. Robert woke with a start. The dim light was filtering through the small window of his quarters, casting feeble shadows on the walls. He squinted, attempting to discern the contents of his room. His stomach grumbled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since yesterday's meager meal. Ah, hell. Robert inhaled the unmistakable scent of bacon wafting through the air, infiltrating his senses and beckoning him out of bed. Rubbing his eyes and stretching his slim frame before swinging his legs over the side of the bed, he said, "Come to Papa." His bare feet touched the cold metal floor, sending a shiver up his spine. The smell of bacon grew more potent, enticing him further from the warmth of his blankets. As if possessed by some unseen force, he made to follow the aroma, his hunger overriding any sense of caution. He grabbed his clothes from the day before off the ground. After the long rest, Robert's legs wobbled with weakness, and his pants kept slipping down. Memories flooded back, of the escape and the men who were after him. He was surprised he had made it out at all. Robert walked down the corridor, curiosity piqued by the savory scent. He wondered for a moment if he was still dreaming, but the growls of his stomach refuted that notion. The smell was too natural and mouth-watering to be anything less than genuine. Who the hell cooks bacon in a place like this? Scratching his head, he approached the galley. Ace's soothing voice greeted him as he entered. "Ah, you've graced us with your beautiful visage." The scene before him was nothing short of surreal. Ace floated around, coordinating an assembly of robots as they bustled about, preparing a veritable feast. Bacon sizzled on a hot griddle, clouds of steam rising and filling the room with the tantalizing aroma. A robot precisely cracked eggs into a pan while another skillfully buttered toast. "What? How did you—" Robert was unable to form a coherent question. His gaze darted from one robot to another, taking in their synchronized movements. "Surprised? We can be quite resourceful when necessary," Ace said, a hint of smugness in his tone. "We happened upon some preserved food stores and thought it best to put them to use. Besides, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or so we've been told." "Damn right it is." Robert's hunger overshadowed his confusion. "But I didn't think you could do, well, all this." He gestured at the bustling kitchen. "Ah, there are many things you have yet to learn about us." Ace's orb bobbed in what might be a nod. "Now, please, sit and enjoy the fruits of our labor." "Thanks, Ace. It looks like a feast fit for a king." Robert's voice was tinged with genuine appreciation. He plunged into a seat at the table, eyeing the heaping plates of bacon, eggs, and toast greedily. As he reached for a fork, he marveled at the scene before him. A floating AI and a team of robots cooking breakfast in an abandoned mining facility. It was absurd and incredible all at once. "Dig in," Ace encouraged. "We wouldn't want all our hard work to go to waste." "You don't gotta tell me twice." Robert shoveled food onto his plate with gusto. "Hell, I might even start calling you Chef Ace if this tastes as good as it looks." "Please, refrain from such flattery," Ace retorted dryly, though his voice was hinting at amusement. "Our culinary prowess is merely a byproduct of our many skills. Enjoy your meal, Mr. Fannec." Robert's eyes flickered between Ace and the robots, his curiosity piqued by their seamless collaboration. He wondered how a bunch of machines whipped up such a delicious meal, and in an abandoned mining facility no less. Forkfuls of bacon and eggs paused mid-air as he studied the delicate dance of metal limbs and floating AI. "All right, I gotta ask," Robert said, swallowing a mouthful of food. How do you have this much food? Hasn't this place been empty for decades? Ace floated closer, his soothing voice filling the air. Ah, this facility possesses advanced food preservation and synthesization capabilities, which allow us to keep ingredients fresh for years. Years? You mean to tell me this bacon's older than my grandpapa's boots? Robert's tone was incredulous. Robert didn't know if his grandfather ever wore boots, but he loved to mention the man's age as a metric to compare old things against. Indeed, Ace was unfazed by the interruption. The process ensures each component maintains its original flavor and texture, even after extended periods. Damn. Robert took another bite. He chewed, mulling over Ace's words. The salty crunch of bacon and the fluffiness of the eggs were undeniably delicious. But something was unsettling about eating food that could have sat in storage longer than he'd been alive. He shook off the feeling, marveling at the technology behind it all. Y'all must have been sitting on this tech for ages, huh? Indeed. Our creators at Calum Corp were also involved in other technological ventures. They also pioneered some severe advancements in foodstuffs production. One of the many things Calum Corp made but prematurely retired was this technology. The orb bobbed toward the food being prepared. Well, it sure as hell is something else. Thank you. Now, if you will excuse us, we must attend to our other duties. Sure thing, Ace, Robert said, watching the AI float away, followed by the synchronized movements of the robots. He took one last bite of toast, savoring the crunch and marveling at the technological wonder that brought it together. It was a slight comfort. Robert's eyes lingered on the plate before him, the last bite of bacon vanishing between his teeth. He felt a pang of disappointment as he forked the last bit of eggs into his mouth. Is there anything specific you need me for today, Ace? Robert tried not to sound too eager. There is not much for you to do as we focus on getting this place running. We understand your desire for action, but today's tasks primarily involve calibrating equipment and configuring software. Robert muttered something, frustration bubbling beneath his usually easygoing demeanor. He spun the fork in his hand, feeling a thread of boredom pressed down on him, like the oppressive layer of dust that coats the facility. Well, if you need any extra hands, give me a holler. In the meantime, perhaps you could explore the facility further. Robert's eyebrows furrowed. He'd never been one to sit idle, especially when there was shit to do waiting for him. With a nod, he resolved to find a task that would make him feel useful, no matter how small. He took a swig from his glass of water. I'll figure something out. I'm not going to sit around moping while you do all the work. Very well. We wish you the best of luck in your endeavors. Thanks, buddy, Robert said, standing up and wiping his hands on his pants. Robert felt a mix of disappointment and anticipation. He might have a vague task, but this abandoned facility was a treasure trove waiting to be explored. And who knew what hidden gems he might uncover? With a forced grin, he set off down the corridor, determined to make the most of his day. Robert strode purposefully down the darkened corridors. He took in his surroundings with a critical eye, searching for anything that might be useful to Ace and his team of dutiful robots. Plenty of abandoned equipment was scattered around, and Robert felt curious as he passed each piece. He spent hours exploring every nook and cranny he encounters, looking for anything useful or interesting. As he dug deeper into the forgotten corners of the facility, he discovered all sorts of forgotten items, spare parts for machinery, tools for repairs and upgrades, and even what seemed to be useless but strangely fascinating trinkets, like old coins and vintage toys. By midday, according to the clocks scattered throughout the site, Robert was exhausted but satisfied with his search. He had uncovered some valuable finds tucked away in various corners of the facility. Who'd have thought a place like this would be so interesting? He absent-mindedly tousled his hair. It's like some kind of twisted treasure hunt. Indeed, Ace chimed in, having searched for and found Robert after completing some tasks. This refinery, holy shit, holds many secrets, some of which may still prove useful to our mission. We encourage your inquisitive nature. Thanks. Robert cast a wary glance at the AI as his heart rate returned to normal from the scare. Can you not scare the shit out of me? Each discarded tool and dusty control panel told a story, and it's not long before he found himself lost in the narrative. His disappointment at not having a specific task all but forgotten. He examined a busted console screen. What do you think this thing did? Controlled the mining bots, maybe? Ace floated closer to inspect the device. Your intuition serves you well. This console coordinated the autonomous personal assistant units that once roamed these tunnels. Neat, Robert said, attempting to flip a switch only to find it fused in place by age and disuse. Too bad it's as dead as the rest of this place. Appearances can deceive. While he continued to explore, Robert's curiosity propelled him forward as his eyes scanned the forgotten remnants of the once bustling operation. As he rounded a corner, an open door caught his attention, revealing a room filled with old-fashioned communication devices. A mischievous grin spread across his face. Now this is more like it. Mr. Fannec, Ace chimed in, floating beside him. We believe you've stumbled upon the facility's old communication center. Really? He feigned surprise as he stepped into the room. You know, I had a hunch, call it intuition or whatever. He looked at the sign above the door reading Communication Center. Your sarcasm has been duly noted. Communicating with entities that aren't on this asteroid would be wise. We could investigate your case. Robert disregarded the AI's jab and eagerly marched towards the dusty consoles, his fingers itching to tinker with the technology and dreading the chance to understand how much trouble he is in. He studied the switches and dials, imagining what secrets they might reveal if only he can coax them back to life. Think any of these still work? He started fiddling with one device. It'd be nice to have some connection to the outside world, you know. Wait, you said you were monitoring the networks. How did you do that without this equipment functioning? The news and data from the moon and other colonies within this system all pass through a relay that broadcasts it system-wide. We used the ship, which we can communicate with, to gather that information. However, it is a receive-only signal, not a true data connection. So you heard it through the ship, but it can't yell loud enough? More like when we yell, no one is listening. But yes, given their age and disrepair, it is unlikely, but not impossible. With your physical ability to move things and our combined expertise, we may breathe new life into these relics. Music to my ears, Ace, Robert said with a grin. Let's see what we can do. As he focused on the equipment, his mind's eye conjured a flurry of activity. A chaotic yet organized mess of wires, sparking to life and circuits humming with renewed energy. It was like watching a symphony, but it was technology in perfect harmony instead of instruments. Ace provided guidance on troubleshooting the unfamiliar equipment, his tone severe and hushed, as if they were performing some ancient ritual. The screens flickered and flashed, filling the room with an eerie blue glow. Come on, you stubborn old hunk of junk. He muttered profanities under his breath, his frustration mounting as he struggled to find a way to resurrect the long-dormant technology. Ace provided a gentle reminder that haste rarely yielded the desired results. These machines have been silent for years and weren't shut down properly. It will take time to get them up and running. Fine, Robert huffed, forcing himself to slow down and approach the task more methodically. He adjusted a few dials, flipped a switch, and suddenly, a faint hum permeated the air, all under the guidance of Ace. Did you hear that? His eyes widened with excitement. I think we're getting somewhere. Indeed, it appears your persistence has paid off. Enthusiasm was evident in his tone. We shall continue our efforts and see if we can restore full functionality to these once mighty communicators. Damn right, we will. Robert stepped with care, avoiding the debris forgotten by time. He crouched to examine a machine and shuffled around its rusted casing. The dim glow of the room's flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the dusty communication equipment as Robert wrestled with a stubborn cable. His fingers ached from the effort, but he refused to surrender. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He swiped it away impatiently. Damn it! Frustration was evident in his voice. Why won't this blasted thing cooperate? Would you like us to take a look, Mr. Fannec? Robert sighed, stepping back and giving the AI space to examine the confounding contraption. Maybe you can figure out what's wrong. Ace hovered over the tangled mess of wires and circuits, scanning them with a critical eye. It appears some of these connections have eroded over time. You could try cleaning them and reattaching the cables. Perhaps that will resolve the issue. Robert grunted in agreement. He wiped the corroded contacts as if they would break with the slightest touch, with a cloth and a splash of solvent, revealing the gleaming metal beneath. As he worked, Ace floated nearby, offering guidance and encouragement. Remember, every setback is merely an opportunity for growth, the AI intoned sagely. Right, Robert scoffed, rolling his eyes. Growth through frustration and sheer bloody-mindedness. Indeed, Ace chuckled. Now let's reconnect those cables and see if our efforts have borne fruit. Robert plugged the cables back into their respective sockets, the satisfying click of each connection bolstering his spirits. All right, Robert said, taking a deep breath. He flipped a switch, and the room filled with the hum of machines, computers, and consoles awakening from their long slumber. A grin spread as he exchanged a triumphant look with Ace. See, Mr. Fannec? With persistence and teamwork, anything is possible. Robert admitted it begrudgingly, his eyes twinkling with wry amusement. Now let's keep going and see if we can get these relics to actually communicate. With that, they threw themselves back into their task, their mutual determination driving them forward. The hours passed in a blur of tangled wires, dusty circuit boards, and endless troubleshooting. Despite the monotony, there was an undercurrent of excitement between them, the thrill of discovery punctuating each minor victory. This appears to be a rather archaic frequency modulation system. Ace peered at one of the communication devices. Fascinating. Really? Robert grunted, his hands buried in the guts of another device. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a pain in the dick. Shouldn't you know all this stuff? You lived and worked here for, what, years? Perception is often a matter of perspective, Ace retorted. What may appear as an obstacle to one could be considered a delightful challenge to another. We were never involved with this section of the operation. We were more of a problem solver for business and engineering divisions. These systems never posed a problem, apparently. Right, delightful challenge. Sure, let's go with that. As the hours wore on, the oppressive silence of the abandoned facility gave way to the sounds of life. The hum of machinery, the whir of fans, the steady beep of diagnostic tools. It was as if the ghosts of past inhabitants had returned, their grunts and conversations echoing through the corridors. "Hey, Ace," Robert said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "You thought about how weird all of this is? Us, two misfits working together to bring a dead place back to life? Indeed, it is a curious alliance that has proven quite rewarding." "True enough," Robert conceded with a smile. "Now let's see if we can get this rust bucket to sing." After what felt like an eternity, they began to see tangible progress. Screens flicker to life, signals grow more substantial, and static-filled sounds emerge from the ether. Each success spurred them on. "All right, Ace," Robert said, his voice tinged with exhaustion, but determination shining in his eyes. "One last push. Let's bring these ghosts back to life for good." The hum of machinery filled the air as Robert tightened the last screw, sweat trickling down his temple. With a final twist, he stepped back and surveyed their handiwork. The once silent room now buzzed with life, the ancient communication devices blinking and beeping, like eager children roused from slumber. "All right, Ace," he said, wiping his hands on his pants. "Can we really pull this off?" "Of course." Robert turned his attention to the control panel, fingers hovering above the buttons like a pianist poised for a grand performance. Taking a deep breath, he pressed a sequence and waited. "Please work. Please work." "Mr. Fannec, have faith," Ace chided gently. "We have come this far. Success is a mere button press away." "Or catastrophic failure," Robert countered with a wry grin. "But hey, what's life without a minor risk, right?" Suddenly, the static-filled airwaves cleared, and a crisp, pinging noise, indicating they received a readable signal, echoed through multiple consoles. "Hot damn!" Robert's eyes were wide with disbelief. "We did it, Ace. We're connected. Now we may send and receive messages and gather valuable information." Bloody and bruised knuckles paid off. "About time something went right around here," Robert said, reclining in his chair with a satisfied sigh. "I was starting to think this place was cursed. It's been somewhat fun working with you. Who'd have thought an AI could be so human? And who would have thought a human could be so helpful?"